What's up, everybody? It's Tyler with Hook Sets Are Free. It is Monday night, February 24th, 2025, 9 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Hope you guys are doing well. It's been a minute since I've been live, and yeah, maybe a couple weeks or so. I've got a new discount tackle package to unbox for you this evening. Pretty standard procedure. Obviously, you can see this package is not too huge. So I want to say there's maybe only 7 or 8 items in there for us to go through, but I'll open that in a couple minutes once we get a few people in here. We got Fish and Fix in the house. Frank the Tank, what's up, my man? Hope you guys are doing well. Tonight I'm drinking a good behavior crushable IPA. This is a beer that I don't drink very often, but the deal was good on it, and I thought I would pick it up. This is a relatively low alcohol 4%er IPA. Here's what they say about it. It's built like an IPA with bright hop flavors of tropical fruit and juicy peach, yet balanced with a light body, slight haze, and a crisp finish that's truly crushable. Well, just so you guys can see, does it have that slight haze or what? It is a light colored beer. Not very easy to pour into a Glencairn. Make it look a little less embarrassing, but yeah, I'd say maybe that's a slight haze. Light color. Cheers, everybody. Malone in the house. What's up, dude? DT in the house. Thank you, Daniel T. Yep, that is in fact my affiliate link for Discount Tackle, which I always mention is in the description of this video. You can copy paste it or just grab what Daniel T put there. You can just put discounttackle.com/AFF equals 3, and that is my direct affiliate link. But yeah, you might want to check out Discount Tackle after you see some of the goodies that are in here. So we will get right into that in a second. I know most of you guys probably came straight from Jermaine's live stream with Brendan, so that was pretty fun to watch for the last hour or so after I put the kids to bed. Michael Bradley in the house. Yo, yo. You know what I should have done was asked Jermaine to, I forget what it's called, but you can forward people from your live stream to another one. Should have asked him to do that, but it was pretty cool that Brendan got a notification 30 minutes ago that I was going to be going live. Happy to see that YouTube is doing their job with the notifications. Well, before I open this, I wanted to mention on my last live stream, I was talking briefly about, we were talking about Bass Pro Shops. Maybe it was 2 live streams ago. We were talking about their new line, how they have totally, overhauled all of their hard baits and a lot of their soft baits as well. I did find 2 more of their baits upstairs that I had purchased. So what I just showed you is the 1.5 square bill. Here's the 2.5. Honestly, it almost feels more like a 1.0 and a 2.0. The 2.5 doesn't feel absurdly huge. I don't know if you guys can hear that. That's got a really nice, subtle rattle to it. It's not a knocker whatsoever. But the main point that I was making about these baits from the get-go was just that they seem to be built well, and everything that we used to kind of hate about Bass Pro baits has changed. So the components on these are good now. I would say passable and worth fishing straight out of the package. So I can't quite speak to the split rings, but I think they're probably passable. The treble hooks, though, are good enough. The design of the bait is pretty cool. I like the textured side, like the gill plate, and I like the paint jobs on pretty much the entire line. And so the square bill is good. The jerk bait is good. Look at the size of the eyes on that jerk bait. And what do you notice when I show you this jerk bait? Not quite as obvious. This might make it more obvious. Not the color, not the internals on this bait, although this thing does have an internal weight transfer system to ease with casting. But why might you want a bait to cast easier? One of the reasons, if you say, look at the size of this bait, this is a small jerk bait with 3 hooks on it. Now, these are tiny hooks, don't get me wrong. These are probably size 8 treble hooks on them. The front and middle can't be sized up too much. The middle and back could be. So I think you could put larger treble hooks on the middle and on the back. You could change the size of the treble hooks here. And I might do that. But again, these hooks, even if you do trade them out, are probably worth keeping and using on a different bait. But you guys know, if you've watched my stuff for any period of time, especially in the last couple of years, that I am a big fan of smaller jerk baits that come with 3 hooks as opposed to 2 on them. So there was a period of time where it was really hard to find. It still is kind of a little bit that way, but more manufacturers, including Bass Pro Shops, XPS, have now come out with a 3 hook, like 4-inch jerk bait. So I believe that's like a 95 or 100 size. And you want to see how close it is to the Junior? Ooh. Okay. For a second there, I thought I had my 110s, 110 Juniors elsewhere. Ooh, spoiler alert. I forgot that I had this bait already. So, size-wise, here we go. So, the noses are touching. The XPS is just a hair longer. Not by much. Maybe a couple millimeters. So, if the Vision 110 Junior is like 95, then this is probably pushing 100, would be my guess. But if I were to try and get out a Pointer 100, they're not in this box. Dagnabbit. I forgot. I have a dedicated box to pointers, and they're not easily accessible from right here. So either way, I would say this is probably in the ballpark of 100 millimeters if I had to guess. Slightly more beefy as well. Yep. Still a great bait size. I agree, DT. All right. We're getting in. So while we were kind of on that topic, and you saw that I noticed something in my box of smaller jerk baits, you know, I reorganized my jerk bait boxes last year for the sake of what rods I will be throwing them on primarily. So these are domestic, like, full-size jerk baits. These are not the JDM ones. The JDM jerk baits have their own box, but I separated the smaller ones from the full-size ones. So in here, You know, the more expensive ones would be like the 13 Fishing Loco Special. But I've got the Rapala Rip Stops in here, and the Shadow Wraps, the 6 Sense Provokes, the Spro Mix Sticks. Awesome jerkbait. I've got the Berkley Stunnas, which want to come apart, and a handful of other jerkbaits. The KVD 300s. You know, the 200s only come with 2 hooks on them, but the KVD jerkbait 300. So those all are ones that I would throw on a specific setup, whereas the smaller ones, ranging from 75 to 95 in size, you can see, like, I've got the Pointer 75 in there, and then like down here I've got the Dual Hardcore Minnow Flat 95 and some Vision 110 Juniors, among others in here. But those I would throw on more of a spinning rod or like a medium light type of setup. We don't need to be drinking out of the Glencairn anymore. Brendan Brown in the house. Heyo. Not much, man. Jerkbaits. Yes, we were just talking jerkbaits very briefly. The only reason I brought it up was because I was showing and talking about how I think the new line of Bass Pro XPS baits is like surprisingly good. The design, the colors, even the components on them, I think the hooks are passable. This is a 95 100 millimeter jerkbait that comes with 3 hooks on it, which I think is super cool. So we were just kind of going down that rabbit hole a little bit. I've got my package open. I haven't showed anything just yet. So Discount Tackle, one of my favorite places to shop. I'll give you my quick spiel. I am a brand ambassador at Discount Tackle. Have been for 3 or 4 years. Helped them start the program. And I make a monthly purchase at Discount Tackle and show you guys what I picked up. Oftentimes it is what is new at Discount Tackle, or just things that I want to try out and haven't, or things that I absolutely love and need to restock on. So, this guy falls into the category from last month of things that I have not tried and want to. This is a Megabass lipless crankbait in the matte shad color. Is absolutely gorgeous bait. It's the Vibration X Ultra. A little bit bigger of a lipless crankbait. Not overly big in terms of body size, but does weigh 5/8 of an ounce. So this month there are 1 or 2 more expensive things, and the rest not as much. I spent $85. And let's start with one of the more expensive things, since we were kind of just talking about this bait. Although maybe I was wrong in saying or thinking that this is not new and that I had one in my box already. No, I'm wrong. It just looks different in the box, but this is not a brand new bait to the market at all. This is the Shimano Zumverno 95 SP. So last hour, you saw Jermaine showing the Shimano World Minnow 115. This is a slightly different jerkbait in terms of what it does, but has similar technology in it. So let me just quickly pull up the Zumverno so that I can speak intelligently to you guys about why it's different than the World Minnow. I wish I had my big JDM box to show you guys the two side by side, but I don't. So what it says on Discount Tackle is that the Zumverno has a quote unquote wide bill design, and it dives and suspends down to 5 feet, delivers a lifelike swimming action accompanied by an erratic side to side darting movement with enticing body roll. So I think the reason that this one appealed to me was that it can and often is utilized in a straight retrieve, or should I say on a straight retrieve, as well as on a traditional jerk pause style retrieve. So that kind of appeals to me. Oh, can't get past the tape. Be smarter than the packaging, Tyler. And don't hurt yourself. Okay. Let's pull this puppy out. This is such a sick color. Where is Debo when you need him? This is called OZ Shad, I believe. Yeah. OZ Shad. It is a matte purple and chartreuse. Where is Kevin Baxter and Debo when you need them? So there, in fact, is your wide bill design. And I believe it. It does look a little bit more like a crankbait bill than a jerkbait bill, which is pretty cool. So maybe what they say is true about it being good on a straight retrieve. Now, it does have that flash boost technology in it. I wonder how that will perform under a cloudy matte finish. I don't mean cloudy conditions, but like a matte finished paint job. If that will show through at all. I mean, I'm sure it will, because this is a fairly translucent bait. When I hold it up, I can see the internals of the bait and that flash boost technology well, but I don't get the flash from it that you would say off of some of the other color patterns. And this is why I was bumming, is because I've already gone down this rabbit hole and purchased a couple of these. So I believe at this point now I've got 3 of them. I've got like a traditional silver shad pattern. I don't know if I can hold this still enough to where you guys can see it flashing. I don't know if that's showing up on camera, but like a silver shad. And we got this wicked, almost a hint of pink on there, but it's like a pro blue, matte pro blue with a hint of pink, and then the OZ shad. So a couple of really cool color patterns from Shimano there. That was the first pickup of the package, and it's not cheap. Let's be honest. That dude is $18.99. So just shooting straight with you, Shimano is one of those companies that has MAP pricing. So they cannot allow retailers to discount any of their baits. That is just the way that it is, unless it's a really unique, like end of year sale type of thing, or it's on clearance. But generally speaking, you will not see Shimano baits, Megabass baits, a bunch of other JDM brands on sale ever. So one of the Zumverno, just because it spoke to me, even though I've got a couple of them, I think I just didn't get around to trying them last season. But let's move on to next in the box. Here's an interesting one. Also kind of along the same lines of the conversation that Jermaine and Brendan were just having. This is a new bait to the market One that I honestly didn't know if I was going to pick up because it is so different and weird. I don't even really know what to expect this bait to do. So tell me, what do you guys know and what do you guys think of this new Rapala PX Jowler walking bait? Have you heard much about it? Have you seen it yet? You can kind of see up there what makes it different. This is one of Rapala's baits that actually came from overseas, like in Europe. Um, and I guess maybe it was popular enough with bass fishermen overseas or in the salt. Maybe it got enough intrigue from Rapala pros in the US that they wanted to bring it over. And here she is. Very high pitch knock in it. And I like that. This is a pretty cool color. I just tossed the package away, but this color is called Silver Flitter Shad. And what makes this bait unique is this. You see that cupped face? This is going to make for a very interesting bait. Obviously, it will float on the surface. I'm not quite sure what the posture will look like on a dead stick, if it will sit that aggressive or if it will sit more, at a mild posture. But either way, once you start retrieving this, it will walk like a traditional walking bait, maybe spit a little even, but I believe you can straight retrieve this thing and it will have kind of a very erratic swim on the surface. So correct me if I'm wrong and tell me what you know about this bait. It does come with VMC Redline hooks on it. So as we've talked about before, that alone makes this bait somewhat affordable because these hooks are not affordable. So we're talking 3 Redline treble hooks at roughly $2 per hook. And I want to say this is like a $15 or $16 walking bait. $18.52. Just kidding. I think it retails for about $20 and was on sale for $18.52. So that is expensive. This is a pretty fat bodied walking bait. I wouldn't necessarily run out and go get one right away, but I will report back and let you know if it's worth it or not. You can't quite see just how glittery this thing is. You can kind of see it, but in person, it's that much more. Seems to be a well-built bait. It better be for almost $19. Malone says, Glitter Rocket. Yep. Cane Walker / Jitterbug / shower blows all in one. A little bit, dude. Not a bad observation there. Yeah, $21.79 retail. What did I say? I spent $18.52. So if you are looking to get one, if you already had your eyes on this, then by all means, Discount Tackle is the place to go get it, unless you want to wait for some type of sale closer to topwater season. But yeah, those are my 2 bigger ticket items in this box. But we got a few things in here that are also interesting. So one is a bait that really proved itself to me last year. I mean, shoot, has for a number of years, but the Bellows Gill, last year I tried the Bellows Shad, specifically in the floating elastomer. Okay, so the original Bellows Gill is a fantastic bait. I had so much success on it straight out of the gate. This was probably 3 or 4 years ago at this point, and whacked on my fish for 2 years straight with it. It just kind of backed off for a year, got into the depths cover scat and a few other baits. Did not want to just throw the bellows gill that much, but first year I tried both the 2.8 and the 3.8. I have not tried the larger 5.8 size of the bellows gill. I know some people swear by it, especially if you're fishing for big old bass, but I am not really. I'm fishing for 2, 3, 4 pounders the vast majority of the time. And so the 3.8 is the size that is most appropriate for me. But when I first started using this bait, the 2.8 would catch a million fish. And it would catch small fish and decent sized fish. But the problem is with the original material, that SAF material, you fly through those baits. They are not very durable. So that's when I really started favoring the 3.8 size because it would weed out the 1 pounders and smaller than that, where the 2.8 would catch everything. So I wanted to get a little bit more bang for my buck in terms of catching decent fish and not just roasting through a $10 pack of baits. So the 3.8 catches bigger fish than the 2.8. However, last year they came out with the Bellows Shad in the Elastomer series. And then towards the end of last year or so, they also released the Elastomer Bellows Gill. And the thought crossed my mind last month that the Bellows Gill 2.8 Elastomer might have some serious play in my waters. So you're not going to have that problem with durability anymore. So you can rig this thing in so many different ways, but on a tiny Texas rig or a free rig or on a drop shot or as a trailer on a small chatterbait, that's where this thing is going to excel. And I am pretty freaking pumped about it. These things come scented with the original Geekrack scent, which, whether you want to say it smells like popcorn or Fritos or whatever, it smells great and the fish love it. So what's cool about these ones, the Elastomer, is the material it's made from. The scent is infused into the bait and doesn't get all over your fingers. I mean, check that out. If I was holding a regular pack of Bellows gills, I would not want to be anywhere near my keyboard right now because it takes a lot to get that off of your fingers. It will just leak all over you. So these come 4 to a pack and will last you probably 8 to 10 times longer than a standard pack of 2.8s. Only difference is really going to be the fall rate. Because these are made from elastomer, they are going to be very buoyant. They won't stand up quite like a Z-Man Elastec bait, but they're not going to have that enticing fall that the original Bellows gill does have, that makes it so appealing to fish weightless on a Texas rig. So you will need to throw a little bullet weight on here to get it to fall, but the look of the bait and just how much it looks like a bluegill, the scent on it is going to get you a lot of bites. And I am such a big believer in their scent. Full disclosure, those were $9.49 from Discount Tackle. Okay. Michael Bradley, no worries. Thanks for stopping by. The Fritos gill. Yep. Dude, Jermaine, they're on your list. You haven't tried them yet, man? You got to get on them. Or are you talking about the PX Jowler walking bait? Sorry, I'm not seeing all your comments in real time as I'm opening this stuff and just chatting your guys' ears off. My bad. But speaking of the Geekrack scent, G-Crack, G-Crack. I don't know what to call it sometimes. Check this out. I think this is a new thing. G-Crack, Bass Energy, and a whole bunch of Japanese writing that I don't think any of us know how to read. So this is their tried and true scent. At least I believe that's what it's supposed to be. So we're going to find out right now. Whoop. Interesting. Comes in a spray bottle. Oh, that's legit. Okay. Comes in a spray can. And this is not cheap. So I wonder how good of a deal this is. Oh, too bad. So the cap is cracked straight out of the pack. So I'm going to have to be careful with this stuff or just apply it ahead of time. So there are certain baits out there like Z-Man and Yamamoto, among others, that Zoom, for example, that are not scented. And sometimes it makes a difference to add some scent to them because this smells like nothing. It smells like a little bit of plastic. Yeah. So what should we throw them on? Let's go ahead and throw it on one of my favorite baits. Great year-round worm here. This is the Zoom Magnum Finesse worm. Don't know how familiar you guys are with this worm. I've talked about it over and over. Oh, looks like I have maybe tried to scent these with something else before, and it didn't go over that well. That's interesting. Or maybe it took initially, and then I didn't go fish all of them, and it's a little bit gunked up in there. It's funny that I would pick that exact pack to do it with, but let's pick a different bait. How about the good old Zoom Speed Craw? This is one of the OG best swim jig trailers. Great Texas rig bait. This is the Mag Speed Craw, so a little bit bigger. This is going to make an awesome chatterbait trailer and full-size swim jig trailer. But in typical Zoom fashion, does not come with any scent on it. So what we're going to do is just take out this G-Crack Bass Energy spray. And I don't know if this is the move or you're going to spray it on each individual bait, but I'm going to try it this way. I don't know if that's too much or too little. Gave it about 5 or 6 little sprays. Oh, and I can see them getting all slimy, dancing around in there. I'm going to put the cap right back on here. I'm pretty excited about this. So take a look at how easily these are moving around now that I've got a little bit of juice in there. So we'll go ahead and open this puppy back up. Oh, I done did it to myself. Okay. I got too close to that. I think I touched my nose to that, but is a little bit different than their original scent. You can see that my fingers definitely have that oil on them now. Gotta be careful with how I close this bag back up. I think I sprayed too much. Well, I definitely sprayed too much. There's a lot of garlic underneath that popcorn Frito flavor. I got it stuck. It's on my nose. Wow. This is like extremely potent. Unfortunately, all the instructions of how to use this thing are in Japanese. So you'd never know. You can see I still got it all over my fingers. Just gonna rub it into my hands. Try and do my best not to destroy my keyboard. Yeah, more garlicky than what comes in the package. But I don't know. Maybe it's the same. Maybe it's not. It sure smelled like the same thing before I sprayed it. And it does on the edge here. So maybe that as the scent soaks into the bait, that garlic will kind of fade away a little bit. I don't know, but I did too much there. Oh, dang. So speaking of baits that do not come with scent on them, I got a few from Z-Man. Here's a bait that is new for the year, but in their micro series of soft plastics. This one we've talked about before and is one that I'm super pumped about. The micro worms. Just a tiny little shaky head worm style profile, I should say. Obviously, you're not going to put this on a shaky head, but this is meant to just go on a micro-sized jig head. And take a look at this little baby. That's the micro worms. All these baits are like 1.5 to 2 inches long. That micro worms is technically 2 inches long. I mean, I guess because they're including the length of the tail as well. So maybe it does come in at 2. This one is also 2 inches, and it is the micro grubs. No, the guppy grubs. Okay. This is in the bubblegum pink color. I believe colors were a little bit hard to come by when I actually pulled the trigger on this package, but I just wanted to get my hands on this bait and see what the profile looks like, because it's not always easy to tell online. But take a look at that guy. Just a tiny little grub with a nice and fat body. That's the top. That's the bottom. It's the head-on view. So beautiful little baby grub. I mean, this is screaming crappie, trout, bluegill. But what's cool, and you can see pretty well online when you take a look at these, and I would forget if I wasn't really inspecting this thing up close, is that on the tab, on the tail itself, I don't know if you can see in that light, but the inside of that curly tail is bold. It's a little bit thicker right in here. And so that's going to give you a little extra thump on that kick when this curly tail is doing its thing. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about all these micro finesse baits from Z-Man. I mean, you really only need like a couple packs of each style bait, and they're going to last you forever. So the guppy grubs, super cheap, $3.99, 8 to a pack. So not super cheap, but 50 cents a bait. and they're going to last you dozens and dozens of fish per bait. You guys are big garlic guys? Garlic is good. Wait, say that again. Do you know if it dries up like bait fuel after a couple days or if it stays moist? Oh, okay. I do not know, but I think that is what happened here is that I applied the bait fuel to these Magnum finesse worms, and that's why it dried up and looks kind of caked. That's also why I couldn't smell anything. But I was kind of a big advocate of the bait fuel when I first got it. I still like it. I often forget to bring scent with me or apply it on the water. So I'm kind of looking for something like this that hopefully I can apply to a bag of soft plastics, and then a few days later or a month later, whatever it is, take them out and they're going to be scented. That would be my preference, but I don't know that, dude. I wish I could tell you. So I guess what we'll do is just check back on these Magnum Ultra Vibe Speed Craws in a couple weeks or next month at this unboxing. So don't forget to remind me, Malone. We'll let this be the experiment now that I've applied it on those, because I will probably not quite be fishing in a month from now, but even if I am, I'll probably be using different baits. A speed craw for me is more of like a late pre-spawn and then a summer type of bait. Not as much early spring and early pre-spawn, but we'll see about that. I got one more Z-Man bait, and I did get 2 packs of them because these are new. I should say new to Discount Tackle, because this bait was initially a Tackle Warehouse exclusive after last year's iCast, and that is the TRD Fatties. Ooh, baby. You guys know that I am a huge fan of the Fatties. It's an awesome shaky head and Nico rig worm for a couple reasons. One, because it has that taper up before the head, gives it that extra action, just like what you're going to get out of this in a TRD bait. So super cool. You're going to get that same TRD profile that is small and will stand up really, really well on a Ned head. Now, if you don't do this to your baits, you need to start doing it with your Z-Man baits, okay? They do come with some salt in them, but if you don't get the salt to spread out and come out of the bait a little bit, it will not have the best action that it can have, okay? So stretch it out, get some of that salt to disperse and to come out of the bait, and then all of a sudden you're going to get a more limber bait. Like, check that out. No longer does this thing stand straight up when I'm holding it. Straight out of the pack, this thing will stand pretty upright, okay? After I've stretched it, no matter how I manipulate this thing, and I'm holding it higher in the bait, trying to get it to stand up, and I can't. So if I hold them side by side in the same spot, what you notice is this one is going to have a lot more side to side action. That tail's going to be moving, and believe it or not, it will stand up tall more easily. And on top of that, check this out. It elongates the bait just a hair. So it is this one, which is shorter on the bottom. I'm being generous to the original. and it's taller on top by a little bit. So this is a 3.25 inch Ned bait, which is a little bit longer than a traditional Ned bait. But yeah, it's one that I'm super excited about. The original Fatties has a slit down its back, which is one of my favorite features. These guys do not come that way, okay? So these are meant to be fished on a traditional Ned head, not on a Ned rig, or not on a Nico rig. Bang sticks. Fatties. All right, so here's a Fatties to show you. This one already has an EWG hook in it, but what's cool is that you can see it has a solid nose to hold a hook, especially a hook like this Mustad grip pin hook, which I love on Elastec. But then on the underbelly, it comes split straight out of the pack, like a decent length of the bait. So I believe this is like a 3/0 hook, and you can see from a profile standpoint, it is the same as the TRD Fatties, just longer. The Fatties itself is about a 5-inch long bait. Not about, but it is a 5-inch long bait. And one of my favorite Nico and shaky head worms by a long shot. So the TRD Fatties is just one that I'm excited about trying and having. I got 2 packs of it. That first one was Green Pumpkin Goby, which is a green pumpkin, purple and gold flake. And this guy, it's the deal. You guys already know this color. And if you don't, you should. It's a really cool green pumpkin blue top with like some iridescent, almost like electric shad type of flake in there. And then it has this whitish iridescent bottom, which is super, super cool. Yeah, electric shad bottom that fades as you go. So check out that color. The deal. If you don't have this in the majority of the Z-Man soft plastics that you already have in your arsenal, it would be worth leveling up and getting this color in all of the baits. It's such a good one. So just doing myself a service by getting this one ready to fish. But TRD Fatties also comes in at 8 to a pack and $3.99 at Discount Tackle. They retail at $4.99, so it's not like they're expensive out of the gate, but you can save 20% off of Z-Man soft plastics every day of the year. That is where I have bought probably 60-75% of my Z-Man soft plastics. I just wasn't in the know about Discount Tackle until about 4 years ago, but I was already into Z-Man before that. But since knowing about Discount Tackle, I've bought all my Z-Man soft plastics at Discount Tackle. So last item in the package, and this will round us out at $85. You can tell from the packaging what brand this is. This is a Japanese soft plastic that is unique. It is not new per se, but it is new to Discount Tackle because they really just started carrying depths a year or 2 ago. It's newer to Discount Tackle, that's for sure. And this is the Depths Beck and Craw. Have you guys heard of this bait or seen it or used it before? Because this one was never really on my radar until I saw it on the list of new at Discount Tackle, and I went and checked it out. This thing looks wild. So They don't even tell you on the package how many come in a pack, but I can count them up pretty easy for you. Count the bodies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to a pack. These are not cheap, okay? This is another JDM brand that you can't buy discounted. So I spent $10.99 for 5 soft plastics. And this is going to be a soft plastic. So just like what you get with the Cover Scat and all of their other soft plastics, a bait like this is only going to last a few fish per bait. So that said, a bait of this size and with these intimidating claws is not going to catch small fish. So I'm not terribly worried about that. But look at how big and heavy these claws are. I mean, that is crazy. And then it's got these appendages, these up front that are curled, brush hog-esque, if you will. So, and then it's got a couple little appendages hanging off the side of the bait that actually are pretty substantial. Will definitely move water. When you think about the way that you're going to be fishing this bait and have it rigged, maybe you got a bullet weight on the front, you're going to be pulling it like so. And so these are going to counteract. You're going to be pulling water against these. It's going to move a tremendous amount of water from these appendages to these curlies to these giant pinchers that are just oh so fat and textured too, which is pretty cool. Now, the thing that really got me to pull the trigger on these guys is twofold. And they're both about the pinchers. Okay. First, take a look. Tell me if you can see what I can see. No, you cannot. Dang. Oh, it's not even visible from that side. Weird. Let's try again. Can you see what I can see? There's a hole on one side of the pincher. Now, interestingly, it does not go all the way through the bait. I don't know if it's supposed to, but looks like it is not supposed to. I can see through it, but there is plastic sealing one side of it. So, not only is there a hole punched into it, but more importantly, these claws are hollow. So I don't know what will happen when they fill up with water, if that will affect the buoyancy of them. But no, it's not a rattle hole, Daniel. It's for buoyancy. It's for action and for these claws to kind of move up. Otherwise, these things are just going to whoosh, hit the ground and be dragging below the bait like that. But with them buoyant, they're actually going to want to rise and put this bait in a more defensive posture. So no worries, Diggs. Thank you for joining. Sorry to bore you if that's what I was doing. That was not my intent, but thank you for joining. Hope you have a great rest of your night and enjoy your week, sir. So that is the Depths Beckon craw. Very unique and oversized craw, or standard size craw with oversized claws. It's a 3.5-inch bait that definitely feels bigger than that. So interesting. I'm not mad that I got it, but I also can't necessarily put my finger on when and where I will use that bait. It's tricky. It's an interesting one, but that does it for this month's unboxing from Discount Tackle. What did you guys think of the package? I believe everything was new to me. Technically speaking. I mean, the Zamverno, I already had 2 in my box, but I have not fished the bait yet. And I forgot that I had it. So we'll count that as new. The Bellows Gill Elastomer is new to me because I haven't tried the elastomer bellows gill, let alone in the 2.8 inch. It's been a couple of years since I've fished a 2.8 inch bellows gill. I really only fish the 3.8 inch these days. So, other than that, everything was brand new to me. So the two Z-Man baits between the TRD fatties and that tiny little micro, the guppy grubs, the Depths Beck and Crawl that I just showed you, the Geek Crack scent spray, very interesting. We'll have to report back on that one. The Rapala PX Jowler, crazy. And that rounds it out. So pretty cool package, in my opinion. I'm excited about them. But Malone, you're most interested in the new scent? Well, stay posted or go ahead and buy it. Now, I did tell you it's expensive, right? $15.95. So I think it's probably meant to be applied not so generously. It's going to be concentrated when it's in spray form. I just didn't think about that when I was applying it. I think you probably only need to do one or two little call it good. But I was like kind of put a lot on there. But it is interesting for sure. No problem, Diggs. You have a great rest of your night. Thanks for hanging out. Yeah, man. When you think of that durability on the elastomer, I'm telling you, it was so good to me last year. I used the elastomer bellows shad on the back of a chatterbait for a month or two last season, and it treated me really well. But I also fished it on a Texas rig. I fished it in probably 4 or 5 different applications, but the chatterbait trailer is what really worked well for me, especially with that slightly narrower profile in the bellows shad than on the bellows gill. I thought made a more appropriate chatterbait trailer, jig trailer than the bellows gill, which is so wide body. But regardless, with this smaller 2.8 inch size, I'm pretty pumped about that because you guys know me. I often am only able to get out and fish for an hour or two. I almost never get out and bass fish for an entire day. So every now and again, I kind of just feel like catching numbers and whacking on them. And I don't care how big they are. So if I could catch 20 fish in 2 hours, and half of them are just pounders, I honestly don't care. Because sometimes that's as much or more fun. Just getting the rod bent, feeling the bite is almost more fun than catching 2 or 3 decent sized fish. Typically speaking, I will average 1 to 2 fish per hour if I am power fishing, if I'm targeting bigger fish, just kind of in general, if I'm mixing up the bodies of water, then I'm fishing and I'm not on a pattern. It's not like the most ideal time of year. There's exceptions like with the full moon and when fish are spawning, and if I'm night fishing, things like that, where that catch rate will go up significantly. But in general, if I go out for 2 hours and I catch 5 fish, that's a good outing for me. So to be able to go out and whack on them and catch 20 fish in 2 hours, all of a sudden a bait is simulating that environment, that situation where it's not a full moon, it's not the spawn, it's not nighttime, and yet I'm catching them as if it is. So pretty excited about that. or that bad boy. What are you talking about? That Depths Beckon Craw? That is a bad boy. Wrap the cap of that scent with tape and it'll probably hold for you. Yeah, you're right about that. I should just put some electrical tape or duct tape or something on it. That would work. Don't we all? We just want that bendation. Yeah, dude. Don't need to be going out catching our PB or chasing our PB every time we go fish. I mean, sure, would be awesome if we knew that the odds of catching our PB were reasonable, but we're not always so fortunate to feel like we are around big fish all the time. So sometimes you just got to go for numbers. Say, screw it. Put the big bait down. Put the new stuff down. Put the tried and true, easy to catch them on type of stuff. Throw on a little bite-sized tube that all the fish are going to whack on. I have not fished this as much as I thought I would, or I think I should. This is a pretty sweet bait, this Great Lakes Finesse. Yeah. Oopsies. Really? 3 to 4 weeks till they should start feeding up? I got 3 to 4 weeks until I'm hoping for liquid water, dude. It is warm here. Now, I'll admit there will be some bodies of water that thaw this week, but the month of March is very unpredictable for Colorado. We could get a bunch of snow. We will definitely have 1 to 2 weeks of freezing temperatures in the month of March. But if we get as much time in that month that is warm weather, it might offset it. And like last year, I was fishing in mid-March. So look at this upcoming week. Today it was 64 degrees. Tomorrow, 62. Thursday, 57. Friday, 62. Saturday, 57. Sunday, 54. So solid. Now the lows are either at freezing or under freezing the majority of the time. So it's not so cold that it's going to counteract what's happening during the day. But then you see like Wednesday is going to be 43. Next Tuesday, Wednesday, it's going to be back in the 30s. So I've got my fingers crossed that I'll be able to go fishing in the next few weeks. But like if I scroll back to last year, try and find some of my first fish that I caught last year. Oh, baby. March the 5th last year. March 5th. I forgot. That's pretty sweet. Caught him on the old Firecraw Thunder Cricket with the Z-Man Goat trailer. Yeah, buddy. And I caught a handful of fish that day, all kind of in that 2.5 to 3.5, pushing 4-pound range. That was a good deal. And then a couple days later, went back and on the 7th of March, caught a few more fish. It was cold out though. You can see I'm wearing gloves and a hat and a jacket. Big old bug-eyed dude. But yeah, I caught a lot of fish that day. So yeah, early to mid-March, I was smacking them. And then guess what happened March 14th? Yo. got dumped on with like a good foot of snow. So that'll happen. And then it wasn't again until like April 11th that I was back out. Oh, I totally forgot. I did some serious work with look at how fat that fish is. With the VMC swinging Ned head last year. That bait was money for me. Yeah. Forgot about that. That Nico Octopus also did some work for me last year on a drop shot. I'm going to have to scroll through some of these pictures and remind myself what worked for me last year, what worked for me the year before, and then use that as inspiration to look at what it is that I have not tried yet that is new to me, that I've picked up in the last year that has just been sitting. The Geekrack Q-Bomb, or the ever famous Bite Times cube. Dice rubber. No, just kidding. But I have picked up a lot of stuff in the last year that I definitely want to make a point to try. But yeah, we'll see where that goes. Net it, says Malone. Have I seen the Shadtron in the water yet? I have not. I have not. But honestly, I don't need to. I have seen the Molotron in the water. I fished the Molotron a number of times, and it's great. So when you think about it, these are the same bait, and I have enough trust in Z-Man to know that really the only difference between these two is the profile. It's got a pretty wicked and subtle tail kick to it. So you can see that the amount that it bends over is not tremendous. This is just going to have a very subtle kick like this. Okay. It's not going to be like that, but it's also not going to be a dead action where you're getting almost nothing out of it unless you are very, very slowly creeping this thing on bottom. So, and that you can do. The other thing that I forgot about with this bait and have not tried, but probably will at some point this year, is the bottom rigging option. And the fact that they put this clip here for you to slap a treble hook onto is pretty freaking sweet. So the line through system has like a V inside the head here. Depending on the way that you feed the line, it will either go up and out to hook onto this hook that comes stock and then set right in its slot, or you can angle your line down and it will feed into the other slot and come out this hole in the bottom, tie a treble hook on, and clip it right in here. So it's either or. It's not a both situation, but if you wanted to rig this as a more traditional swim bait with the treble hook on bottom, line through, you can certainly do that. Now I will probably try both this year. So I'm excited about the Shadtron for sure. I would say it's going to be right up there in terms of probably a top 5 bigger bait for me in terms of what I commit to time and effort wise. And when you consider the price point of it, it's hard not to be pretty pumped about that, because, you know, I got good deals on the Huddlestons that I bought in the off season. I like bought them over Black Friday and stuff, but you know, this Huddleston 68 is a tried and true bait. It's got a bigger tail, thinner fade to that tail. Uh, yep, it's kinked up, but um, whatever. Huddlestons do that. But this guy, you can creep that much slower, and that tail will do its job, but not with a Lastech. So you kind of do have to fish the Shadtron and Molotron at like a anywhere from medium slow to medium fast retrieve. I think you could probably even fish it fast, but the Huddleston is not one that you want to fish that way. But it's also limited in terms of the way that they are made. You can get the top hook that is exposed out the top, or you can get the weedless like this one where it's inside the bait. But that's about what you get with Huddleston, and they're about 2 to 3 times more expensive than the Z-Mans. So I will report back, let you guys know what I think of the Shadtron. But just from a build quality and details standpoint, I almost like them better than the Huddleston in terms of the way that they present themselves. But of course, the fishability and what the fish tell you they think of them makes a big difference. So I can't quite speak to that. But you're absolutely right that it looks like a Huddleston ripoff, because it and many other baits are. That wedge tail design is no longer unique. I think Savage Gear might have been the first company to really rip off that tail. And that was, I don't know, 6+ years ago. But a number of other companies have since then. And Z-Man is just now getting around to it the last couple of years. So I would imagine that the smaller Shadtron is going to be harder to fish and get the same type of action out of. When you just think about the size of the tail, I mean, it's a cute little bait. It's probably going to get bit pretty well, but who knows? Maybe the action is about the same out of this guy. I don't know. But little guy, this is like a traditional threadfin shad type of size. I believe it's 4.5 inches versus 6. Don't quote me on that, but I immediately have more confidence in the bigger size. I know most people would probably say the opposite, but just seeing them out of the package and the way that the bait feels in hand and will most likely act in the water, I'm leaning toward the 6-inch, not the 4.5. Really? Okay, well, then I would imagine the 6 is even better than the 4.5. Caro Ferg in the house. What's up, Caro? Good evening to you. It is late night for you. Are you laying in bed right now? Or are you up having a late night snack? What are you doing, Caro? Thank you for jumping in at this hour. We've been hanging out for an hour and 15 minutes. I'm starting to feel like I need to pee. You tell me if I should go pee and come back, and then we could talk pre-spawn, or if we should just hang out for like another 5 to 10 and call her a night. And then on maybe my next live stream, we could do a deep dive into pre-spawn. Daniel was saying over on Jermaine's live stream that he wants to do another dedicated, maybe pre-spawn shopping spree from Discount Tackle, which I think would be super fun to do. We did that, I think, 2 years ago, where Daniel gave me a rough budget and his login information at Discount Tackle. So I logged into his account and loaded up his cart over the course of a live stream. He gave me the freedom to choose what I would, and maybe try to catch him a little bit off guard of things that are up his alley, but maybe not things that he had tried before. And added a bunch of stuff to the cart, and we finished the stream there. And then he made a purchase based on some of those things in the cart. Oh, You're in Ohio? Just woke up to take your meds? You got there with a bad cold. Sorry to hear that. Things are going really well. Thank you. Daniel really wants to go through pre-spawn and new baits. All right. Well, give me 2 minutes. I'm going to pee real quick. I will be right back. And we'll spend another half hour or so and go through some stuff at Discount Tackle. I'm not going to do it like the olden days where I pee in a bottle or a cup down here. That's nasty. I'll be right back. Yeah, Mango. I'm coming. A little bit tight to squeeze in here. You know what I just noticed is the Bass Pro catalog. Kara, if you're still here, did you go look that up? Were you able to withhold from making a purchase or no? Here are. Oh, I already put those Zamvernos away, but let's compare the Zamverno that I just picked up, the oh so beautiful Ozy Shad, to say the Pointer 100. Oh wow. So I would say that the Zamverno is like a 95. Okay. The Pointer 100 makes the Zamverno look tiny, first of all, because it's so slender in profile. But look at that bill compared to the Pointer 100, which is a fairly wide bill, but it's the angle of the bill that matters. This one tapers out, kind of like a crankbait bill. So pretty cool, pretty cool. We already talked about that. I just saw my pointers and thought to double check that because now I'm wondering, are the Pointer 100s truly 100? Or is that like, are they more like 105 or something? Well done, Caro. Staying disciplined. Staying disciplined. You know what I should have compared it with? Screw it. I'm not going to do that right now. Let's hop on Discount Tackle and check out what is new and maybe go through a couple pre-spawn baits. I believe, well, I don't want to speak too soon, but let's check it out. I'm going to share my screen, pull up Discount Tackle, hop back over, make myself small. Okay. So here we are. Discount Tackle. This is the Zumverno that I picked up. 3.7 inches. 95 millimeters. Okay. I could believe that. And here are the colors. This Macchiato almost got the best of me. I mean, that's essentially a matte shad. Absolutely gorgeous. Matte Pro Blue. I mean, come on. 3 matte colors. That is the one we got. That was the shad. It's not very often you see 3 matte colors. And then the 2 that I already have are the black silver and the pink smelt. Great colors. Hasu is a fantastic color. ST Chiayu looks like a good one as well. This Ghost IU is one that I really love. I've got it in the World Minnow. Great colors all around. The Zumverno is a fantastic bait. So this is one that we'll notice right away. When we go to new arrivals, oh, okay. They just added all these like today. I guess Live Target's got a bunch of new soft plastics out on the market. Yeah, Daniel, the Hasu does in fact look great. So Live Target with a Senko style worm. Image coming soon. Okay. Live Target, I knew they were getting into the soft plastic game, which actually makes me mildly excited. You know, really all they did before was like soft plastic toads, frogs. But they haven't made traditional shapes of soft plastics in a long time, if ever. So a Senko style bait, a shaky head worm. Oh, look at that's an interesting finesse worm. Look how much that tapers down and is narrow for like half the bait. Skinny little guy. 5.5 inch worm. Interesting. And then an unrigged crawfish. Okay. Been there, done that. Definitely looks realistic, but it's a 2.8 inch craw. I guess also comes in a 3.8 inch as well. So the 2.8 inch comes in packs of 6 for $8.49. I mean, could be worth a try, but I would be hesitant. So I'm probably not trying these Live Target soft plastics. New to Discount Tackle is the 5-inch mag draft. This is another bait, like what I was talking about earlier, in that some baits are JDM exclusives before they come to the US. Some baits are European exclusives before they come to the US. And some baits are Tackle Warehouse exclusives before they come to Discount Tackle. So it took long enough. You know, it's not like many retailers have had this bait for a long time at this point, but the 5-inch mag draft is a good bait. Kind of like what I was talking about with the 4.5-inch version of the Shadtron, though. I do feel like the action is a little bit different. It's more speed sensitive. Well, the mag draft is speed sensitive. Let's be honest. It has a different speed at which it is sensitive. How about that? So you can fish the 5-inch a little bit faster because its tail does not have as much action as the 6 and the 8-inch versions. So the 8-inch you can fish the slowest of the mag drafts. The 6 has kind of its medium, slow preferred speed, and the 5-inch is more like a medium speed. So what's cool here now though is that you get all of these colors. So many more than what you would get out of the traditional mag draft at most places. So most places you'd get the albino pearl shad, you'd get the brownie, you'd get the MB gizzard, you'd get the rainbow, maybe the Probu clear chartreuse, the whiteback shad. This it's usually not called alblete. I forget what, maybe a hasu or something else. Sometimes you'd see a baby bass, usually like in the 8-inch, and then like this gill coat color. But now, look, we got the perch, we got this silver shad, looks pretty sweet. Chartreuse back is kind of a JDM exclusive color. I have that color in the 5-inch. Like it a lot. Pink shiner. Sweet. Good smallmouth color. And then look at these 4. Nice little IU. A little bit more natural than what you get out of the brownie. Not quite as translucent as the brownie. You get this ghost shad solid color, which is unique and different from the other whites that you get. Same with this Aurora shad. Looks very similar to the white back shad, but you know that this Aurora shad is going to have a little bit more translucence to it, a little bit better in clear water. Ghost chartreuse back. That looks sweet. You get a little bit of the whole rainbow in there, and yet it looks very appealing. Celeste is like a Hasu type of color. Very cool. And then Borealis shad looks awesome. And that Aurora shad we talked about. So a lot of colors here. 19 colors in the mag draft. Rare, but very cool. And a lot of them are in stock right now. So $14.99, however, I mean, it is pretty evident that like this is a JDM bait, where I want to say the other mag drafts are a little bit cheaper than that, and they're bigger, right? No, not cheaper. So the 6-inch is $14.99 as well. I lied. The 8-inch is $29. Sorry, 30, and the 10-inch is $35. Okay. Onward. VMC putting out some jigs. Interesting. I do not like the look of this. The head is hiding in the finesse skirt. You got the banded skirt, the single wire weed guard. I'm not into that design. This utility jig, like who's making their baits and why? I mean, sure, they've got a gaff of a hook in there and a nice bait keeper, but I don't like the head design very much. This weedless football head, I'm not mad at. It's got that more traditional EWG style hook. And that swim jig looks pretty good. None of these jigs really speak to me personally. Now this, if it were a little bit cheaper, I would probably jump all over and try a couple packs of. That's expensive. I'm not believing this. Retail from $17.59. Not a chance in hell am I believing that. $7.47 is already hard enough to swallow for 2 tungsten jig heads with a decent bait keeper on it. Won't be trying that, but I like the look of it and always tempted by the red line hook. And you see they're taking advantage of the fact that people know the red line hooks are great. They're putting them in spinner baits. Looks like a pretty good spinner bait. I'm not mad at it, but I'm also not in a rush to try it. Discount Tackle expanding their swag. I'm not mad about this at all. I will probably end up grabbing one or two of these. I like these style bags. I want to say I have one or two that are Spro branded because I got a great deal on them, but they are durable and hold up great. So yeah, these from a size standpoint are what? XL, 16 by 12. Wow. That's a big dog. 16 by 12. You could hold a lot in there. Okay. And then as we talked about, we got the Beck and Craw here. We got the TRD Fatties here. So as you guys know, I do like to buy from what is new at Discount Tackle. What's with the gold leaf? That's a little too much for me. I love Discount Tackle, but I won't be buying that hat personally. Picasso out with some A-Rig jig heads. I don't love that bait keeper, but I do have a lot of respect for Picasso. I probably won't be trying that, but I think these are made for a micro A-Rig or a mini A-Rig. Look at that, 1/8 and 1/16 with 1/0 and 2/0 hooks on them. That's pretty cool, I guess. Kitech with some spinner baits. What do you know? Spinner baits and swim jigs. That's new. And they're pretty expensive. But cool to see a wider variety of Kitech jigs. And not just the traditional Model 2, Model 3, Model 4 tungsten jigs. So they're making lead jigs now, football jigs, swim jigs. Maybe they've always made them, spinner baits, and now they're available stateside. I don't know what it is. I was very tempted to get this one and pulled out last minute, but this is a tiny little finesse swim bait, 2.8 inches with a very unique shaped body. So this screams to me miniature swim jig, ball head, maybe Okashira screwhead type of presentation, but could be a great little bait. But I pulled back on that last second, and I don't really know exactly why. I kind of hope these come in clamshell packages, but you never know until you get them. So maybe I'll be the guinea pig, and next month I'll pick them up. You guys can see what I think and what you think before you go ahead and pull the trigger on those. And then look, we're all the way back into last month's what was new with the Vibration X. That's what I got last month. So this is the same bait, just 2.5 inches, 3 inches. I believe I got the 2.5 inch version. Nope. I did not. I got the 3 inch version, which weighs 5/8 of an ounce. So now that I think about it, in comparison to other 3 inch lipless crankbaits, I would say it doesn't seem as big as I first said I thought it was because of its body shape and taper, right? Look at how much the thing tapers to a skinny little tail. So it's almost like compared to other lipless crankbaits that's how big it is. But really you get that extra 1/2 inch is all tail. So for a 3 inch lipless crankbait, this feels pretty reasonably sized. Like not a huge bait. Yeah, you're right about that, Daniel T. Savage Gear and Live Target have been kind of battling each other for the last 10 plus years for realistic baits. And they both do a great job, but I think Savage Gear gets the nod from me. What are you wish listing? I've already flown through so much stuff. The 5-inch Megabass or what? Yeah, I completely agree. The single wire weed guard doesn't do much. I'm not into it. At least make it a double wire, one on each side that I can manipulate, have it be narrower and almost like one, but just hugging the hook, or make it wide and really protect it from rolling. Um, I would like a little bit more versatility in a weed guard. The queen tackle jig head. Yeah, Carol, I don't blame you at all. They are great. They swim great too. Are you talking about these? These queen tackle jig heads? This one that is ever so funky with this line tie facing the hook point. Um, I know that it's really supposed to be for strolling, but it's just isn't that hard to wrap your head around? Ah, very funky. Very funky. Well, shall we? Mm, it's not big enough. How do I make it big? We'll go full screen on it. Okay. I mean, shoot. If strolling's what you're doing and what you want is rolling, that appears to be working. That said, how do they have this thing rigged? The ball is on top of the head. Yeah, I still I don't know how to wrap my head around it. So rigging seems interesting, but still your line is going to be facing the hook. Funky, funky stuff. And tungsten heads, I mean, they're expensive, right? How many come in a pack here? What was it, like 2 or 3? Does not say. 2-pack. 6-pack? Should I be believing that? So 2-pack for a half ounce. Okay. But if all of a sudden you're getting 6 in a pack, that's a 1/16 ounce. But presumably you'd use a small bait for that. 6 to a pack for $9.99. I could probably stomach that. Do they make the same sizes in this one? That bait keeper looks like it was hand tied on there, and I wonder how well it's going to stay on. 1 ounce. Get out of here. 1/16 ounce, 10-pack. Yeah, I'm not believing it. 1/32, 12-pack. Okay, okay. Now, given they're out of stock right now, but if that is true, if I could get 12 tiny guys, number 4 hook. Dang, that's a tiny little dude. I don't know. I don't know. Queen tackle with a tungsten finesse football jig for $5. Sounds pretty reasonable. Looks like a good jig. That one might actually be worth trying. Black Magic Special. Hmm. Yeah, like is it rubber? 3/0 Mustad light wire. Nice. I mean, the skirt materials look good. I think that is just silicone, but they make it look good. if I'm being honest, I don't love a horizontal line tie, but I could get past that. I'd be more inclined to pick up like this one. It has the vertical line tie. This football head, hammerhead, huh? Show us the other angle. Why is it called the hammerhead? It's because these nubs sticking off the edges. This one comes with a 6/0 heavy jig hook. Shoo-wee. So for the extra $1, go ahead and pick up a 1/2 ounce football jig with a giant hook in it. Interesting. So Queen Tackle putting some stuff out. Nice little hair jig, tungsten head, $4 a pop. Not bad. Bass Mafia, I'm still hesitant to try their walking bait, and I am their jerk bait as well, especially at that price point. You know, $12.50 for a jerk bait. I don't know anything about Death Grip jig heads. Last month we took a look at the Zigzag Topwater. The Daiwa, this looks like a saltwater paddle tail swim bait. Looks kind of like a Kitech Easy Shiner, for being honest. We talked a little bit about it last month. Dobbins nail weights, I used to use those a lot. I mean, it's a good deal. 20 cents per. There's the gloves. And we're into rods and reels, and there's the Shadtrons. So we've already gone back. Yamamoto Shad Shaped Swimmer I opened for you guys. Trick Shad Glide Bait I opened for you guys. And this is what started the conversation of the Bass Pro Shops and XPS line of hard baits and everything being revamped, was seeing that Strike King did that with all of their elite baits and their 2.0 versions of all their baits. But pretty cool. So that makes up what is new at Discount Tackle. We can talk briefly about pre-spawn action. Yeah, it's real weird, Caro. Real weird jig head. Yeah, probably not, but I did get them just to see what they're like. I throw hair jigs when it's cold, but I don't fish a lot in the winter because my waters freeze over. So yes, I throw hair jigs, especially when I'm fly fishing. I like a good woolly bugger. I tie my own. So yeah, I have marabou and fly tying vise and everything else. So I make my own hair jigs, and I do fish them in colder water. But Daniel T, here's that bait. It's the Z-Man Graph Shads. The old Graph Shads. It's not the old Graph Shads, it's the new Graph Shads. When I opened these the first time, I was telling you guys, I really like the way that this bait is so seamless with the head. Now it's interesting because you actually tie on to the chin. So they line through, you come through the top of the head, out the chin, and then tie on right here. And then push the bait back up on there. And the way that it matches up so seamlessly with the head is pretty amazing. Looks fantastic. The paint jobs are seamless with the soft plastic pouring. These things are like a perfect pairing. But as for how I will like it in fishing from the bank, I think you're right, dude. Odds are probably not a lot. So I got them to just see what they looked like. give my first impressions upon seeing them, but I probably won't be fishing them much. We'll see. You got some of the Bass Mafia loaded dangerous. Yeah, dude. I like them. They are decent action. In fact, I kind of like the action a little bit better than I like the mag draft. But the fact that it's the loaded version and is a line through makes all the difference, quite honestly. Get to visit an Orvis store today. Nice. That's pretty sweet. Oh, really? You're going to a fly tying class? Sweet. Good for you. Just don't get addicted like I did. I want to say 3 or 4 years ago, I started tying a ton of flies. I went way down the rabbit hole of just learning about 10 or 12 different fly patterns of things that I fish frequently here in Colorado. And I bought a lot of materials. I think over the course of all the flies that I tied, I definitely saved money, but I spent a lot of time doing it. It was fun. It was a great thing to like gift to my dad and brother and other people that I fish with when I'm fly fishing. But yeah, it can be addicting, when you start to feel like it's a new hobby. You could see yourself getting good at it. It's a good way to pass the time. Next thing you know, you're way down the rabbit hole, tying jigs, tying feather treble hooks, anything you can think of. Yeah, I'm not entirely surprised to hear that, given its aerodynamic profile. Oh, you want to learn the old woolly bugger? It's a pretty easy pattern to learn, honestly. Um, but yeah, it's a good one to learn because that is a pattern that all fish will eat. And you could even throw it on a spinning rod. You don't need a fly rod to throw a woolly bugger, but glad to hear it. Nice. Yeah. Nice. Nice. Lucky duck. I'll trade you for some of that. All right. So let's get into a few things. So I believe on the homepage. Okay, maybe I misspoke. I was thinking that maybe there was a sale going on. It's really just line 20% off right now, aside from the normal stuff that you see with Z-Man being discounted and other things like that. But check this out: the Jackhammer now comes in a few new colors that aren't necessarily brand new, but I honestly don't really have in my arsenal. The blueback herring has been around at least a few years. The California craw is kind of a new-ish color as well. Dirty white is pretty cool. Has that gold blade on it with a little bit of black up top. Got the orange blade. The ghost baby gill also been around maybe a couple seasons. Smallmouth magic, I think, is a newer color. I like the fact that that blade is painted with that lighter green and splattered on there. That's a cool color. And then obviously these two JDM colors, the old blackjack and the morning dawn. Pretty sweet. That blackjack is obviously the one that gets me most jacked up. I mean, check that out. Matte black, baby. I wish I would have picked up a handful of these when I did, because I think that is going to be money. I'm going to trim down that skirt a little bit in order to use this Mooch Minnow as the trailer on it. But with the Mooch Minnow, this thing is going to be super erratic. Honestly, I might swap for a different trailer just because I honestly don't know if this is enough trailer. I prefer a little bit more predictability out of the action on my chatterbaits. We've talked about this before. I like to impart the erratic action on my chatterbaits through the way that I work the rod and the reel. I don't necessarily want the bait to do that straight out of the package, because then I feel like I'm risking getting hung up more frequently than I would prefer. Um, Especially in familiar areas where I know the cover is, chatterbaits are not the most snagless baits. So if I'm fishing around wood or a pile of rocks and there is the risk of that bait getting hung up, I want to be able to know exactly what my bait's doing and decide when to make it jump or stall out or do something different. I don't necessarily want that bait coming in doing crazy stuff and rolling and then getting caught, um, getting hung up on wood or getting pinched in between a couple rocks when I don't have control over it. So I feel like that happens more frequently when you've got either no trailer on or you're using a straight tail or really thin profile trailer on a chatterbait. So I usually go with something that's going to slow the bait down a little bit and give it a little bit more consistent or true action. And it could be any type of trailer. We've talked about this a number of times. The Z-Man Goat is probably my favorite, my most go-to trailer. You can rig it horizontal or vertical, does not matter. Used to be the Strike King Rage Menace grub, and for the last couple of years has been the Z-Man Goat. And then you can go either way from there. You either go more action and get something like the Ultra Vibe Speed Craw or something of the sort, any flapping craw style bait. Or you can go more streamlined and go with something like the Kamikaze Swim On or the Missile Bait Spunk Shad, the Beast Coast Blade Runner. There are now a bunch of trailers on the market that are that straight but perhaps fork tail design as well. That back in the day, you just use a fluke, really, if that's the action that you wanted out of it. And then Z-Man came out with the Razor Shads, and it's evolved from there. Now, I know Z-Man was not the first one, but you know what I mean. So, Daniel says I'm a fan of the new Evo Tungsten. I will probably try it at some point. You guys know I'm a fan of the Evo, but a big part of why I'm a fan of the Evo is its price point. So to get the tungsten into the Evo brings the price point of that bait up essentially to what you're paying for a jackhammer, right? So I don't know if it exists at Discount Tackle just yet, but let's see. Whoa. Tungsten Evo. There she is. $13.59. That's discounted from $15.99. $13.59 discounted from $15.99. So in my mind, I would rather have a lead jackhammer than a tungsten Evo. And there's a few reasons for that. The main reason being the components and the action. Okay. So I think action is the most important thing in a chatterbait, generally speaking. But I think the Evo did a great job of producing a chatterbait with really the best action out of a Z-Man chatterbait. The jackhammer is an evergreen bait sold by Z-Man. So for a Z-Man chatterbait, I think the Evo was the best that they've done. And I think it has everything to do with that connection from the blade to the head, how big that line tie is, and how much freedom of movement that blade has to swing around and hit the head. That said, I don't think it's quite as good. I don't think it is quite as fast or as loud as the jackhammer. That's not necessarily always a bad thing, but I would prefer the jackhammer over the Evo the vast majority of the time. On top of that, the components in these two baits is different. The blade that you get on, even though it's cool the way they painted some of these blades, unique colors, the blade is the same blade as what you get out of the original chatterbait. It's a lower quality blade that will bend out easier, get beat up more easily, and has a different bend on the front of it. So you're going to get a little less consistency out of that blade. The next thing is the hook itself. You get a Gamakatsu hook in the jackhammer. You get a quality black nickel hook in the Evo. They say a custom 5/0 heavy duty needlepoint black nickel hook. It's a good job making it sound fancy. But I will, well, and the last thing is that snap on the front of the blade. The snap is weak, not nearly as good as what you get on the jackhammer. So those are the three components that are lower quality in the Evo. I do like the eyes better on the Evo. And I like the look of the head. It has a lot of the same features as what you get in the jackhammer with that dual barbed bait keeper, a hand-tied skirt, the stamped weight on the bottom of the head. All those things are the same. You do get some different color patterns in the Evo. I think it's a great bait, but I would not pay the same amount for a tungsten Evo as I would a lead jackhammer, simply because I could get a head that is smaller in profile. That is not important to me. I don't find that the size of the head in a jackhammer is a problem, that it's too big. So that's just me. I know I'm ranting at this point. I've been talking about it for a couple minutes. Sorry. Freeloader on an Evo. Nice. Nice. Early reminder to check those Zoom baits next live. Let's check them right now. Malone, dude. Let's check them. I'm nervous. I can't smell them from the outside. You want to get some of those jackal bladed jigs from Japan? Yeah. They're good ones, dude. I don't know if I have my JDM. No, these are my very domestic bladed jigs, but yeah, the Jackal Break Blade. I've got a couple of them. And they're good. They're very interesting, dude. They're super finessey. They're cool. Okay. They, unlike those jigs we were just looking at a minute ago that had a single wire, the Jackal Break Blade has a 2-strand wire weed guard, which is awesome to see on a chatterbait, but it has a thin skirt and a small profile. It is very unique bait, and it has great action on it. So not true though, Frank. It's not going to take that long to ship them, dude. Maybe it will, since they got to go all the way to Canada. You are so far away, so I don't know. All right, sorry, getting distracted. We're gonna smell them. We're gonna see. Okay. The garlic is definitely still there and strong, but not as bad as it was when I first took a whiff. I mean, it was very pungent straight out of the can. I will say that. So I think what'll be interesting is if we give it a good couple weeks, that'll be more than enough time to see if they're going to do what those Magnum finesse worms did when I put the old bait fuel on them and they decided to crust over for us. So Frank. Daniel T, I'm not going to go all the way down the rabbit hole of individual baits at Discount Tackle on this live stream for pre-spawn, but I will just quickly go through like bait categories of what is kind of on my radar or that I prefer to go to in the spring. Stop staring at my butt. So don't worry, I'm not grabbing too much stuff. And it's not like there's any real rhyme or reason behind what I'm doing, but here's some beautiful big ass hair jigs for you. These will pack down when they're in the water, but have a lot of flare to them. Rig these on Gamakatsu round balls. Poof goes the hair jig. This one's a little crazy. It's like half hair jig, half woolly bugger. Threw a little bit extra up in there. Made a couple more natural color patterns. Brown and orange. And then I went, well, classic black. Can't go wrong with classic black. And then I went kind of crazy. It did like a hybrid style jig where I put round rubber, square rubber, and marabou up in that guy. And then on a handful of flashback mini chatterbaits. We talk about this bait a couple times a year because I slay panfish on it. It's like the smallest chatterbait that Z-Man makes and sells in Walmart, of all places. Put a little tinsel in there. Beautiful. So, yeah, hand tying can be fun. Yeah, so in general, in the pre-spawn, I will throw, it kind of depends on how early it is. Like last year, I was not expecting to go fishing, and I grabbed some stuff, and I happened to fish a chatterbait because I'd never fished this body of water, had no idea where the fish might hang out. The water was dirty. I know it's shallow, and I was just searching for fish, and I started getting bit right away. So that kind of told me something, that a chatterbait and a swim jig might have more play early season than I expected, at least in my bodies of water. I know typically speaking, you ought to go a little bit more quiet, a little bit more finessey. So in theory, a swim jig instead of that chatterbait there. But you'd also want to go with something with a little bit more subtle of a trailer on it. I think a Ned rig is an awesome early spring bait. So, you know, this Wriggle ND from Duo Realis is a pretty sweet bait. Honestly, I think this bait on a drop shot, rigged wacky, is a really, really sweet bait. You can see that it's got all of these, you know, unique shapes to it, right? That it kind of tapers. This is a sweet bait, but does not have, for a bait that is made from elastomer, it does not float like the rest in this category that are super buoyant. So this one has a cool posture horizontally, but when you try to rig it on a Ned head, it doesn't want to stand up the way that others will. On the other hand, if you are throwing a Ned rig or a Nico rig or a shaky head, all great presentations in the spring as well. The Molex Stick Flex in both sizes. Their smaller size is better for a Ned, and this bigger size is sweet for a Nico. You can see they like filleted the top half so that it has that extra action for you. But this guy has tremendous buoyancy and is perfect. Really, really like the Molex Stick Flex. If I'm going hard baits, I'm going to go with something like a flat-sided crankbait that has a mild amount of action, or I'm going to go with a jerkbait. Well, those are going to be my primary hard baits in the earlier part of spring. I just don't get the same amount of bites on a square bill or a fatter crankbait in the springtime, or at least early in the springtime. Maybe later in the pre-spawn, as we get closer to the spawn, square bill starts kicking ass. Something fatter with quite a bit more action will do the job. Lipless crankbait is kind of a go-to, and yet one that, for me, a chatterbait ends up taking its place a lot of the time. Once I figured out that yo-yoing a chatterbait is a lot like yo-yoing a lipless crankbait, something changed in my mind, and I fish a lipless crankbait a lot less than I used to in the past. And I fish a chatterbait a lot more than I used to in the past. So in the spring, I will fish a chatterbait in a number of different style retrieves. I will fish it slower, and I will fish it on a drag and lift, and I will yo-yo it just until the fish tell me how they want it. Whereas once we get into the late pre-spawn and then post-spawn and beyond, I'm fishing a chatterbait at kind of a medium fast retrieve, and will twitch the rod and speed up the reel to make the bait do funny things. I'm not doing as much of that in the early pre-spawn. Drop shot. Yeah, no doubt about it. The drop shot for me in the pre-spawn and during the spawn is probably one of, if not my top producing presentation. Um, it's so good. And I can't tell you guys enough times. Every time we get to talking about the drop shot, we talk about this bait. This has been my number one soft plastic bait, perhaps of all time, but is year after year after year, especially on a drop shot, but also on a few other presentations. And that is the Strike King Baby Z2. I stock up on a pack or two of these every year, even though they're made from Elastec. A pack of 5 of these will catch me 50 or more fish. And usually that's about all that I want to do with one bait before moving on and trying different presentations, trying different baits, really. But the Baby Z2, Strike King, Z-Man, Elastec, fluke style bait in a baby presentation, perfectly horizontal presentation because it is Elastec with salt in it. So I always have at least a half a dozen packs of those. Yeah, I've got like 7 right now, all different colors. Got it in the Morning Dawn, the Arkansas Shiner, the Deal that we talked about, Smoky Shad, Glimmer Shad, Glimmer Pearl. Yeah, and then some repeats. That Arkansas Shiner color is that color I just showed you. It's the most realistic and my go-to color, but I throw it in all those different colors. And on this chatterbait, the Flashback Mini, they make it in 2 sizes. This is the smaller one, but the 1/8 ounce version, I throw that Baby Z2 as a trailer on the back of it and absolutely smash them. So, yes, drop shot is an absolutely killer presentation, especially when you're sight fishing. Also, soft plastics, I would say a weedless Texas rig. Something that can, you'd present in the same situation as where you might put the drop shot in high probability areas or where you can see a fish set up. Now, of course, in the pre-spawn, you might spook that fish away if they're posted up and they're not actually cruising and feeding up. It's hit or miss in terms of what that fish might do. If you see it before it sees you, good. If it sees you before you see it, it's probably going to leave before you actually put that bait in its face. But a weedless Texas rig situation with like a bellows gill or a depths cover scat, Yamamoto Yamatanuki, presentation like that is probably going to be one of my go-tos. Is a high density, heavier soft plastic thrown on a weightless Texas rig. You could throw a wacky rig in that same situation and probably whack them on that as well. Just not necessarily my cup of tea, but 505 says, are you a believer in red and orange baits during the spring? Yes, I throw a red chatterbait every spring and I do pretty well on it. I've not had quite as much luck with red hard baits. I guess part of it is just a confidence thing. I have not gone way out of my way to throw a lot of red hard baits. Don't get me wrong, I own them. There's that blaze color of the Berkeley Stunna, and here is that dual colored 6 Sense Provoke. I forget what they call this color, but I've got a few, and then I have a lot of red crankbaits. But if we're being honest, I don't crank a ton in the early pre-spawn. So you could throw something like that dude with a chick magnet, or even go brighter. Classic fire craw in the evergreen flat force, which is an awesome bait. I need to be throwing this one more. I mean, check this out. It's a silent bait. It has like a rubber ball weight transfer system in it, but it's a silent flat side crankbait. Just kidding. That's the Spro Little John. And meanwhile, I'm talking up the evergreen right there. This is the evergreen. Pardon me. Just faked me out for a second there in terms of the color pattern and almost the profile or shape of the bait. Little John's great, but so is the Flat Force. Flat Force is also silent, but it's dead silent, does not have a weight transfer system in it. And there you go. Jackal Bling. So a lot of these baits need to be thrown more. I should probably keep this box out. It's a big box of flat sides. What am I doing? Yeah, I do know that spinnerbaits work really well in the spring. I like a spinnerbait, but don't love a spinnerbait. I've had a love-hate relationship with the old spinnerbait. I throw them, just not year after year. So yeah, I've just kind of moved on from them. I'd rather throw an underspin than a spinnerbait. I'd rather not have the wires and just have a little bit more control over the posture of the bait, the look of the bait. For me, I prefer a trailer, but on a spinnerbait, I don't throw a trailer. I just throw a trailer hook or none at all, and I have less confidence in throwing something with a skirt, but not a trailer. And I know some people throw, trailers on spinnerbaits, but I don't. Yeah. Well, for me, our water here in Colorado is dirty in the spring. It clears up as the water temps go up, as the weather becomes more stable. But early spring, we have a lot of snow melt and more stormy weather. So the water tends to be murkier. So bright colors definitely help to elicit reaction bites. You're absolutely right about that. It's also just that the colors show up better. Dang, dude. It's a good price. I like the baby Z2 about 5 to 10 times more than the full size Z2. Just FYI. Um, okay. Lucky Craft Reds. Yep. You like a spinnerbait when it's a little windy. Yep, I hear you. You're making me think about Lucky Craft Reds. Oh, just kidding. This box is all Rapala. We've got Brats and DTs. But yeah, there are 3 great craw patterns from Rapala that are red. So you get that red craw, classic. I wish I remembered what all these color names are. You get that red with green, and then you get their more like fire craw type of color. So all a little bit different shades. But they all work well. And the DT4 is such a sweet bait. It's crazy. I have so many of them, and yet I still get sad when I lose them. You know, because I'll lose a couple every year. But what I try to do is be stocked enough to have roughly 2 in each of my favorite colors in each of my favorite size. So maybe 4 or 5 colors, which means I have about a dozen in each size. In the 4, the 6, and the 10. I don't throw the 8. 4, 6, 10, and then I throw the BX Brat in that standard size. Usually in the shallow, not that mid diver, but yeah, Blaze, that is that color. You're right. All right, guys, we've been on 2 hours and 22 minutes. Good chatting. Appreciate you guys. But we should wrap this up. It's 11:25 my time. I do have work early tomorrow, and my mom is coming to watch my kids tomorrow. Well, more so just usher them around. They've got school and such, and yeah, my wife was working tonight, so my mom is with the kids tomorrow while I'm at work, and my mom is coming at 6:30 tomorrow morning. So I got to hit the hay, but we got 19 people in here. You guys have been staying strong all evening. So do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button. If somehow you are not already subscribed to the channel, do me a solid, subscribe to the channel, and keep your eyes peeled. We'll be back on shortly, and we're going to do another shopping spree-ish type of deal where I'm going to pre-select certain categories, certain baits, perhaps, and we'll spend some time on discount tackle, picking items out for Daniel T to purchase for the pre-spawn. If you guys are interested in something like that, let me know. I can either do the same for you, or better yet, I could create a list that Discount Tackle will post on their website with a link where you can just see kind of what my favorites are for that time of year. If that's something you guys would like to see, let me know. Thank you guys for hanging out. Hope you have a great rest of your night. Enjoy the rest of your week. There's a 20% chance I might be on tomorrow night as well. My wife is working then as well. So thank you again. Cheers. Have a good night. Bye.